The Champions League is back, but which team has the best chance of causing an upset against those super clubs? I hate that word. Let's get into this. Last 16, we're going to go through every single tie and we're going to put forward some shocks. Let's start off with your team, Harry. Porto versus Arsenal. Topped your group, didn't you? That's nice, isn't it?
Yes.
Which means you get the second leg at the Emirates. How are you feeling about this game against Porto? Always a bit of a stubborn one in Europe, aren't they?
Famous last words, but pretty confident. I think the gap between the two sides is huge. The only thing that would swing it in Porto's favour is the fact that the Dragao is a really intimidating place to go. I was there earlier this season for their game against Barcelona. I thought the atmosphere was incredible. But on the pitch, Arsenal are far superior. And as you mentioned, with the second leg at home.
Do you like it that way round when you have got to go to a... Yeah.
Yeah. You much prefer to go away from home first, I think. And if you do slip up, then you're in a position at home in front of your fans to try and turn it around.
Okay, so the simple one here, because we've got a lot to get through here.
Yeah, I actually think Arsenal are very suited to the Champions League, more so than the Premier League. So I think most teams, especially teams like Porto, who typically they're not a side that are just going to sit in for both legs, they will have a go at time that will play into Arsenal's hands.
They got 12 points from their group stage, same as Barcelona, but finished second on goal difference. So did pretty well in their group. Not doing great in the league, 6 points behind Benfica at the moment. But yeah, I think overall you would imagine that Arsenal should have a little bit too much. I guess, the one thing being... I don't know if it's a thing or not, but I think it probably is that experience in the knockouts of the Champions League. I think everyone has that feeling star-wise that they could go really, really far. Have they got the kind of nous to deal with those European nights? We're about to find out. But I agree. I think Arsenal will make it through in this one. And I think they'll go all the way, actually, Arsenal this year. I think they've got a real chance.
Oy.
I do.
All the way.
I've always liked James.
Napoli. Do you know this is one of those ones? I said it in August. So I'm sticking with it.
Keep backing it.
Yeah. Napoli versus Barcelona. Odd season for Napoli, possibly the worst defence of a title win that we've seen in a very long time. Lots of changes in terms of the management as well. Have they got any chance against a Barcelona side who have also had a bit of turmoil as well?
I mean, this is really a mid-off, as the kids say on social media these days. You've got two sides that are so out of form, really drab and poor to watch at times. Napoli have been... I think they've honestly one of those things where they won the league and the motivation has been zapped out of the players. There's lots of things going on off the pitch, and then Barcelona have every week there's a new player that they try and rely on, and I just think they just don't have an identity or a plan B to try and win games. So in reality, whichever team wins this is like if Napoli do win, I won't be sat here saying that's a huge shock, and if Barca win, I won't be sat here saying there's a huge upset either.
It's an interesting one with Barcelona. Obviously, it's always about positional play. It's about the team, especially with Xavi at the helm. Maybe a lack of individualism there at times. Whereas Napoli, Kvaratskhelia, he is the guy for them, and it does feel like if he doesn't perform, then they're probably going to make their way out.
Yeah, I'm not feeling confident about Napoli. When they lost Spalletti at the end of last season, you saw everything kind of collapse around them. And you mentioned that the title defence has been really poor so far. Barcelona not in great form either. And normally I'd look at this and go, Barcelona are at home in the second leg. That will make all the difference. But they're not playing at home. They're playing elsewhere. And that is having an impact, I think. The San Paulo, or the Diego Maradona Stadium as it's now known, can be a really intimidating place. If Napoli get something out of that first leg, I wouldn't bet against them.
Tough call. Come on, we've got to do it though. I'm gonna. Do you know what you've done me there, Napoli?
Napoli.
I'm
gonna go Napoli.
This one, yeah. Okay, PSG versus Real Sociedad. Do we have a shock here? Is this our first shock?
This is the one. This is the one. We both said, just as we were looking through them, I was like, Real Sociedad, I've got a feeling about them. And I think a lot of people did when the draw happened, because initially people said, Paris Saint-Germain at that time were playing poorly. This is the one. This is the easy one. But I actually think Real Sociedad have all the sort of players that PSG hate to play against. PSG think they want to dominate the ball and dominate the game, when actually, I hate to say it, they're a transition team. They need to get the ball and get it into their wide players as fast as possible and get it into the penalty area. Sociedad want a controlled tempo. And I think PSG, they have this like little man syndrome when that happens. When someone tries to control them, they go, no, that's not happening to us. And they always fall flat.
Was that an impression of me? I think when we're talking about shocks, this does feel like one. Like, very difficult group for PSG that they got out of, but kind of only just. It was awkward in that sense. And the thing that makes me wonder that Real Sociedad could do something here is second leg at home, but also so many of their games are tight and they're kind of okay in that space. And I think that's what's going to kind of really help them. They only conceded 2 goals in 6 matches in the group stage. Didn't score many, but I think half the battle against PSG is stopping them from scoring. You might get one or two, and
There's
it's a
also
very
no
youthful
pressure.
team. Yeah,
There's no
zero
pressure
pressure on
on
them at all.
Nothing.
Is
at
this
all.
our shock then? Are we all agreed? What do you think?
It's the one that jumped out at me off the page when we spoke about teams that maybe could spring a surprise. Stylistically, I don't think PSG are going to like coming up against Sociedad, as you mentioned. But the PSG project is built around winning the Champions League, and every year they seem
not winning it.
Yeah, they seem to hit a brick wall because of the pressure, partly as well. And I just think for Sociedad, if they go out at this stage up against PSG, no one will say a word. But if they can, get through this, then all the attention's on PSG again for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and it's just sort of you feel it in the air, can't you? With PSG, that's something that they need to be able to break through, which they've obviously only done the one time when they got to the final last year. For Mbappe, most likely as well. So he'll want to do something. 14 goals in 2024 alone. So he is in good form. But there's going to be a shock, and that's the one we think. Inter versus Atletico Madrid. Would this be considered a shock? Inter have been very impressive, playing beautiful football this year. I thought they might struggle not having Brozovic this year, but Çalhanoğlu's come in and he's done fantastically. What a baller!
I've never seen it. By the way, Google his age, because
you're not having it.
This man is not the age that Google is telling you. I feel like I've watched this guy since he was 14, and at that time I was 36. So, but he's been outstanding,
good, man.
Hey, we try. But I think both of these two sides are pretty evenly matched. I think
both in a good place overall.
Yeah, I think Atletico are probably exactly where they're supposed to be. They put up a really good fight against Real Madrid, and I was on here last week and I thought Madrid would walk all over them. And then obviously you have Inter Milan, who are top of that league and just beat Juve. So both sides in a nice moment coming up against each other. I think it makes for a very exciting tie.
I feel like Inter at the moment are a much more complete side than Atletico. Çalhanoğlu's been great. Lautaro and Thuram have developed this incredible partnership as well. And I think Inzaghi's a very cup-orientated coach in terms of his style of football. But Atletico have the second leg at home, which is big, and it's a Diego Simeone derby, isn't it? Two clubs that are very close to his heart. So I fancy Inter here. I'm going to go with Inter.
That is my favourite tie, I've got to be honest. I think there's so much experience on the pitch and so many exciting players to see. Atletico Madrid, of course, Depay, Griezmann, Morata, Correa, all can obviously contribute when it comes to this one. I'm going to go for Inter.
Same. I think Lautaro, 19 goals in 20 Serie A matches this season. He's got the X factor, and in every game where it's been tight, he's always the one.
PSV against Dortmund. Luke de Jong, my boy, cannot stop scoring right now, and PSV are absolutely on fire. It's lovely to see 18 goals from 20 in the league. Bakayoko, really exciting player for them as well. They are unbeaten, I think. They've been flawless. In the Eredivisie this year, but coming up against a Dortmund side who I thought showed great kind of stoicism in their group, where no one really gave them a chance and then went on and won it.
It was those two games against Newcastle, wasn't it, that essentially just propelled Dortmund up into a position from which people were then expecting them to get through. PSV are a really open side. They're going to come and they're going to attack. That's the way they play. Seen them live twice this season, and you never felt at any point that they were not able but willing to sit off and maybe soak up. And you might need to do that against Dortmund, because Dortmund do have some top quality players in the attacking areas. I think this one's going to be full of goals, literally full of goals. I really do. Both sides are going to go at it. I'm kind of leaning towards PSV because I just feel like they've got a bit more firepower at the minute. Yeah,
which is odd to say with Luke. I'm not trying to hammer Luke de Jong here, he's killing it, but you wouldn't have thought. I wouldn't have said that at the start of the season. They've got Luke de Jong, so they've got the firepower. I think they might sneak it as well. I think maybe they're this year's Monaco, this year's Ajax, just because the form's so strong. Who are you going for?
I'll go with Dortmund. I think Sancho's... I don't know why. You know me, I love a narrative. Sancho in the Champions League is going to become a thing. And people are going to be like, oh, he should have stayed. You should have kept him. So, yeah, I'll go Dortmund.
Man United will be delighted with that because that will help with the transfer fee, won't it? Lazio versus Bayern. I mean, I don't want to talk about this for too long because I think this is quite an obvious one. I don't see how there's any way that Lazio make it through with this one. I think Bayern are actually having a good season when you look at the points total. It's just you've got Bayer Leverkusen there who are, an anomaly. over the last 10 years or so. So I expect them to get past them quite comfortably.
Yeah, I think they'll get through really, really comfortably. Lazio are having a torrid time in Serie A this season. The chairman, the president of the club has had to come out and speak on Sarri's job, as if to say, things are okay for now.
So that means he's completely safe?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's kind of the dreaded vote of confidence. I think Bayern have just got way too much firepower for Lazio. And in years gone by, I'd have said, the Olimpico will be rocking and all the rest of it. But you just don't get that vibe from the Olimpico at the moment when Lazio play there. So I think this one is a bit of a foregone conclusion.
Yeah. Mid-table, kind of just about snuck through as well. It feels like a Bayern clean sweep here. Leipzig versus Real Madrid. Leipzig will have a go, but against Real Madrid, struggling at the back though.
Yeah, but Leipzig,
at the back.
I like their fans. I like what the club's doing, but this stage ain't for them. They always get to this point and they'll come up against City or Madrid and they will get absolutely battered, because I think every year they get to this point, they're so naive. They want to play open and Madrid will just go, you can score 3 if you want, which I think they did against City last year, or possibly actually this year, and then Madrid will go and score 7 and they lose 7-3. I just think it's one of those.
7 in the last 10 minutes. No, Real Madrid as well. They just got that thing in the Champions League, haven't they? Incredible.
You would imagine so. I would say, styles make fights sometimes, and I think Real Madrid will generally have the ball. I get that. But I think in transition, Leipzig, with the 2 centre-backs possibly being Carvajal and Nacho Fernandez, if that is the case, I think that gives them a shot.
Leipzig are flat. I just find them, even when they get to the final third, they have those players that you've watched 5 or 6 times in a season, you go, what a player. And then when you watch them in both Champions League games, you go, why can't you just cross it to your guy? What's wrong with you? So,
okay.
Madrid.
All right. I'll chuck Leipzig. Okay, have a shock. And last one, and this would be a shock. Man City against Copenhagen. Any chance? This
Go on, Harry, let's do it.
Is this sort of Saudi Arabia, Argentina level if Copenhagen over 2 legs get past Man City?
I'm happy to go on record and say there is 0 chance to see Copenhagen get through this one. I think they've had a really good Champions League campaign so far. I was really impressed with them against Manchester United. Really impressed with the atmosphere they seem to be able to generate as well, and the impact that can have on games. But then they've got to go back to the Etihad against a side that, for me, despite their league position at the moment, are the best side in world football and are and should be the favourites to win the whole competition. So I can't put Copenhagen as a realistic option.
Copenhagen, I like what you're doing. If this was 1 leg, whichever stadium it was at, Copenhagen have a chance. But because it's 2, I'm sorry, Copenhagen.
You've both missed your chance at getting something clipped up for the right reasons. Copenhagen are going to knock out both Manchester teams. You get his clip and then get my clip. I told you, Copenhagen knocking both Manchester teams out. You heard it here first. Let us know what you think.